Welcome to the podcast, Rahul.
Thank you very much.
Finally, we are doing this.
It's been a long time, yeah.
Long due. Welcome. Let's get started with your journey, right? We know what you're doing today at Reckitt, but let's understand the roots of it, right? Where did you start off from? Just run us through the whole journey.
Sure. So I am from Bihar, Patna. It's one of the poorest part of India. We all are from the same place. As I say, it's been a journey which has gone from, I would say, like Samastipur to Singapore. So I was in Singapore. Before this. I'm born in a small village called Vibhutipur. So in fact, our family like gets named from our village, or our village gets named from our family.
Sure.
Nobody knows. I did my initial studies in my village. After that, we moved to Patna, where my dad was working. I did my study there. Did my MBA from Bajaj. That was 2001. Did some initial work. Joined Dabur. So I've done both sales as well as marketing.
So you started with sales and marketing.
I started with sales, and then I moved to marketing. When I was in sales, most of my bosses were not leaving me to go to marketing because they thought that I was a decent salesperson or I would be a good salesperson to go ahead with. Then I joined marketing. I joined marketing in Dabur. I started with oral care with toothpaste. I did that for some time, and then in 2010 I joined GSK. It was a very interesting journey because and that is something which I am very proud of.
Sure.
Because GSK in India is known for Horlicks. It's their biggest brand. Horlicks Boost. It's their biggest brand. But globally, if you look at GSK, their biggest business is oral care. And GSK had launched their oral care thrice in India, like Sensodyne, Aquafresh, and it had not done well. But they always wanted to make oral care big in India because because India and China was what they used to call as last frontier. India was in fact the 90th country in the world to launch Sensodyne globally. And then they reached out to me for that challenging assignment. I was doing quite well in Dabur, but something happened and I joined GSK. I worked in GSK for almost seven and a half, 8 years. I launched Sensodyne in India. I call it my second son. I had my first son in Dabur, second son was Sensodyne, and third son happened later. Then I did that for around 7-8 years. I did both. So and I grew in GSK. After that, as I was in GSK, there was a very interesting role that came up. Suddenly one day I get a call from a gentleman in Singapore. It was from a very different company, and he was looking for somebody who can handle Asia Pac for marketing, for nutrition, for infant formula business. I had no idea. I had absolutely no clue of what this infant formula is. And normally what happens is you move in your own company from, say, India to Singapore. But I was one of the few lucky ones who just went through the interview process and one thing led to another. And then I joined Abbott Nutrition as Asia Pac marketing director for infant nutrition. I did that role for around 4 years. And then suddenly, as it happens in life, one day I get a call to explore this role in Reckitt. And again, one thing led to another. And I moved from Abbott Nutrition to Reckitt. I did, in fact, while I was handling Indonesia, I started as a marketing director in Reckitt, handling all these three businesses. So Reckitt has got 3 businesses, which is health, hygiene, and nutrition. And then last year, I got this opportunity to head the overall nutrition business in Indonesia. Sure. I lapped up because of my experience of nutrition earlier. I think company decided that I would be a good candidate for heading the nutrition business, which was quite a challenging role because Indonesia is one of the toughest market in the world.
Why do you say so?
If you look at Indonesia, most multinationals here, Indonesia is a market which is very locally driven. It's a market where local companies are very, very strong, and for the right reason, because their overall understanding of market. Also, they can play the price game much stronger than what a multinationals can play, and therefore they are much stronger for some reason. Indonesia is one market where, except for Unilever, most multinationals are of a reasonable size. I won't say that anybody is of a like great size. And that's what I have been doing for the last 1.5 years, heading
Sure.
nutrition business, but completely enjoying this role.
Sure.
It's one of the most challenging assignment that I'm doing, but completely enjoying it.
We'll talk about this role
Yeah.
in detail as we go ahead. But give me an give me your view of Indonesia, because you've worked in multiple geographies and different roles, be it India, being based in Singapore and managing other markets, and now you're solely focused on Indonesia. How different it is, right? From a market perspective, from a perspective how the market consumes, how the market identifies your product, right? How is it different? How marketing is different? How consumption is different?
Yeah. So Indonesia, when people look at Indonesia from outside, they look at 270 million people. They just look at the fact that it's the fourth largest country in the world. And in most categories, it's a huge market. It's a huge market because if you also look at like per capita income of Indonesia, it's almost double of India. And therefore and also a very unique fact about Indonesia is that the like middle class is very strong here. If you look at India, for example, you have got like upper SEC, then you have like middle class, which is medium, and then you have got this lower SEC. Here it's like diamond, so it's almost like pyramid in most part of the world. Here it's like diamond, where the middle class is very very strong. But beneath these two amazing data lies the fact that it's extremely price conscious market. And for the right reason, Indonesians are very conscious about their identity, about the fact that it's a market where you have to really have a good understanding of consumers if you want to really build your brand love. Because at the end of the day, marketing is about like building salience as well as brand love. It is about having a strong mental availability with your like market. And that's where the Indonesian consumers, see, most consumers everywhere in the world are same. I mean, as a human being, we all are same. We have got our same basic needs. But when it starts coming to nuances, people here are much more, I would say, value driven, which is
Okay.
the right thing to do. In most markets, for example, if you go and run a BOGOF, which is buy one, get one free, people normally will go and run and buy those products. Here, it's about the price points. Here, it is not about BOGOF. Here, it is about like, price point. And therefore, it is very important to understand the nuances of, this market. Also, the fact that in this market, the number of women working is very very high. Almost 51% of women are working. And also the like society as a whole is going through a very dynamic change. For example, the number of people who are more rooted, who are wearing hijab, has gone up significantly from, say, and these are not my data, these are the data which are available, which has gone up from, say, like just 10% in 2010 to now almost 49-50%. And therefore the way you talk to your consumers also needs to evolve, also needs to change. And therefore, as a marketer, it is very important that you set the right narrative when you are talking to your consumer.
Sure. No, makes sense. Makes sense. I mean, I have been here for 8 years and I've seen the overall market around me and my limited understanding evolve. So I can completely understand. Let's talk about nutrition. You now lead the nutrition vertical. Uh, where does Indonesia stand? And I mean, we are talking about infant nutrition primarily. Where does Indonesia stand globally?
So Indonesia is one of the biggest market in the world. It's the third, fourth largest market in terms of nutrition in the world.
In terms of consumption?
In terms of consumption. But majority of the market in Indonesia is either in mid-tier or in economy. The premium part of the market here is small, and for the right reason, because the whole economy is growing, right? But it's one of the like largest market in the world. The fact that majority of women here, more than 50% women here, are working. There is a need I mean, after 1 year, there's a need for food which can be given to the kids. Right. Also, if you look at Indonesia from a very nutritional point of view, the cases of stunting here is very, very high because of the overall nutritional needs. The cases of stunting in Indonesia is quite
But
high.
the stunting cases are driven primarily by lack of nutrition.
It's driven primarily by lack of nutrition, both in mother as well as the child. So, for example, we were just looking at some data. Almost 40-45% of mother in Indonesia suffer from malnutrition before childbirth, and that translates into the right weight, or that has an impact on the overall weight of the child, or how a child will grow, right? So it's very critical that both the mother as well as the child is given the right nutrition. As a company, we always say that the mother's milk, which is breast milk, is best in case for the children. And ideally speaking, for the first 2 years of a child's life, you should give a mother's milk to the child. But not all moms can have as much milk as is required for the child, and that's where our role comes.
Sure, sure. So primarily, this product is for the mothers.
This product is for the kids.
For the kids, but your buyers are the mothers.
My buyers are the mothers.
Your buyers are the mothers. Let's talk about the because I'm to be honest, I'm not from the industry, so I'm very intrigued and curious. So some of my questions might sound a bit weird, but let me still give it a shot, right? So I want to understand the whole process, right? If you could just run us through manufactured, then there is distribution, then there is retailers, then there's the end consumer, right? How does this function generally, and is it a one size fits all across FMCG industry, or it differs from companies to companies?
So it differs, right? For example, there are brands which requires very high level of distribution.
Okay.
Like, for example, if you look at the normal FMCG product, like a soap or a shampoo, that requires very high level of distribution.
Okay.
Whereas products like milk that we sell, it does not require that much high level of distribution. You have to be present at specific point of sale for mothers to be able to buy. There are specific what we call as the milk stores which are available in Indonesia, where moms know that they can go and buy. And then you of course you have Alfamart and Indomart, which are the two big giants of Indonesia, and they have an amazingly high national footprint, which helps them to which helps product reach. So you need to have the distribution is not that critical as far as nutrition is concerned, which is very, very much required when you talk about things like a soap or a shampoo. But you have to be present in the right way, in the right store, to ensure that your products are reaching mother. See, the most important thing is whether you talk about a shampoo or a milk formula or other part is how do you drive brand love? Marketing is probably the most important part, because at the end of the day, every brand, at the end of the day, what are we doing as a company or as a person? We are trying to drive the salience of our benefit, salience of our brand to the mothers or to the consumers, right? And that is where, how do you differentiate your proposition to the mothers? How do you differentiate your offering to the mother in a unique way is what determines how your mother is going to like your product.
And how do you do that?
See, the most important thing that we do is to understand consumer needs very well. The first and the most important thing is to understand consumer needs. For example, if you look at our product, it is about brain. Enfa helps you to improve your IQ. In fact, our tagline is higher IQ for A+ kids. And we have got the clinical evidence, because what we do is we sell scientific nutrition.
Okay.
Brands, products which have got clinicals, products which are clinically proven to help improve the overall cognition function. For example, and that's where our role is. So as a brand, the most important task that we do is to educate consumer. Educate consumer. For example, in my case, as a marketer, our job is emphasize position on brain, right? And therefore, our task is how do I educate consumer on the need for brain development in the first 1,000 years,
In the first,
in the first 1,000 days of a like child's life. The reality is that 92% of your brain gets developed in the first 1,000 days. 92%,
okay.
right? And almost 70%.
In some cases, never. I've seen
In some
so.
cases, never. But 92% of your brain gets developed in the first 1,000 days, right? Almost 70%. I mean, while a lot of us put a lot of emphasis on our genetics, that he's intelligent because his father was intelligent, or his mom was intelligent, and genetics do play a role. But 70% of your brain development happens, and these are some data. I mean, these are not conclusive data, but these are some data which says that 70% of your brain development happens because of the stimulation and because of the like nourishment that you get in the first few years. That impacts your brain, that impacts how tall you are going to be. So both your physical and mental development is related to how good you take care of a child in the first 1,000 days. And therefore our job is to drive the relevance, or is to drive education of, I mean, we as a brand drive education of this basic facts to the mothers. Because it is very critical that if Indonesia has to grow, and the government is laying a lot of emphasis on what we call as a golden generation. They want Indonesia to, grow. There's a very clear charter by the government which says that by 2045, when Indonesia will be 100 years old, they want that generation who is born now to be a like golden generation, who are much more intelligent, who can take Indonesia to the next level. And that is where we are partnering with the society, we are partnering with the government, we are partnering with midwife, we are partnering with SCP to ensure that the brain relevance is brought out to the consumer.
Sure.
The second part, so the first job that we do is how do we bring the whole brain relevance to a consumer, but also how is our brand, because at the end of the day, a consumer has got multiple options.
Correct.
And we have to present, or we do present ourselves as the best solution for the brain development.
How do you cut across this different segments of the society, right? I mean, as you rightly mentioned, there's a middle class and there's a slightly lower middle class, then you have the upper class. What is the key to communication out here, right? I've always been very curious on this piece, that you've got limited airtime, you've got large but limited budgets, and you would want your communication to be one size fits all, right? Like all forms of mothers should get enticed, excited, educated by one
message,
right? How do you come to that point?
See, that was that one message was a philosophy which was prevalent, say 15-20 years.
Okay.
Now with the advent of digital, now with the power of digital, my philosophy is very simple. In fact, I say that you have to have 3 M's. Normally, I follow a philosophy of 3 M's, which is having the right message, through the right messenger, in the right medium. So you literally have to marry your message, messenger, and the medium to reach the right consumer, right?
Okay.
I'll give you an example, and it's not important that you give the same message in today's world to all consumers. While the core of your brand, for example, in our case, it's about brain development. The core of our brand remains the same, but we have different offerings for different consumers. We have an offering for what we call as the most premium mom, premium moms of Indonesia, who can afford, who are among the top strata of the society, and who can afford to pay as much as a mom anywhere in the world. But we also have offerings for moms who are aspiring and who cannot pay so much.
Sure.
And our job is how do we tailor the right message, and there are different messages that we give to what we call as a premium moms. And when I say premium moms, these are the moms who have an attitude similar to what you see in a mom in either a Jakarta. So you can't differentiate these moms, whether they are in Jakarta or in Singapore or in New York or in like New Delhi or in Australia. They are the global moms, and you start communicating to the global moms in a different way. And that is where I said the right message to the right messenger. For example, we have brand ambassadors. We use brand ambassadors in a very, I would say, very considerate way to communicate our message. And also the third thing is about using your medium. So the right message, the right messenger who is your brand ambassador, in the right medium, in the right environment, to ensure that you drive differentiation and for your brand and drive brand love. Similarly, when you're talking to a like mid-tier mom, you'll be or a mom who are more aspiring, you will use very different mediums. The tonality of your message is going to be a bit more, I would say, a bit more balanced, because they are the mom who, there are moms who wants their kid to do well, both in terms of the mental aspect, but also they want their moms to be the leader in the whole society. Therefore, we have got, that's what the whole formula is, having the right message through the right messenger in the right medium. You have to marry these three, and that's the trick that that as a marketer, I'm just revealing one of our secret, to have the right message through the right messenger in the right medium to ensure
How big is the TV as a medium for you?
See, TV has got huge reach in Indonesia, and we use TV as a medium to, if we have to reach a large consumer set, we do use TV as a medium.
But then again, TV is like a one-way communication, right? So out there, your content needs to be more balanced so that it reaches the whole milieu of people, right?
Yeah. See, the way we drive communication and the whole marketing has now become very, I would say, has become complicated versus what it was 25 years.
Okay.
25 years back, you make one like commercial, you put it on TV, and everybody's seeing. It was a one-way. I mean, it was one-way like communication. Now, the whole thing is, there are different steps. The whole thing has been now divided into like different steps. First, you have to build awareness of your brand. So there's awareness, there is consideration, then you have to drive trial. And people who have tried your brand, how do you ensure that those people stay with your brand and also then become your brand advocate, so that they in turn are used to drive awareness as well as consideration? It's almost like a virtuous cycle that you like create. And that is where you start using different mediums for different role that your brand plays. Different role on awareness. For example, if
give me an example, right? I mean, for example, like we'll have a different campaign for awareness, we'll have different campaign for brand
consideration.
Consideration.
Yeah.
Just let's just break it down with an example. Might not be a real example, but just.
So the first thing that I want to make, so awareness. Let's talk about awareness, because people might not be aware about my brand. It's a big any brand, right?
Sure.
And that is where you want people first to know that there exists a, for example, tomorrow I launch a phone, which is, say, it is called Bipin XYZ. If I want people to know that there exists a phone called Bipin XYZ, which has got XYZ features, the first and the most important task is to ensure that people are aware about your brand. So people normally choose between 3 to 4 brands. People normally don't choose one brand unless you are a very loyalist and you are going to go for an iPhone or XYZ. The first task of a marketer is to ensure that your brand comes into the consideration set of a consumer. And that is where you start building the awareness of, you start building the whole awareness of your brand, so that a consumer thinks that, consumers start thinking about your brand, start believing that, this is one of the options that is available. And that happens when you give a very, when you like come with a new advertisement, and the normal rule is you will go mass with that, with your awareness drive.
Sure.
The second thing is, and that will be like, say, you try to reach 70% of your consumer or 60%.
Multi-channels again.
Channels, so that like consumer has seen you in your brand, and in his subliminal, he starts feeling that I have started to develop a sort of a relationship with the brand or some sort of an awareness with the brand. Second is about consideration. For you to start considering, because as I said, you will start using 3 to 4 brands. Normally, a person use 3 brands. For you to start considering, you need much more specific stimuli, which is not awareness, but now specific information, so that you are pushed a bit more towards starting to buy my brand. But even now, you'll not buy my brand, but I start giving you information which are specific. For example,
In the case of phone, it will be specifications, camera
you
specs,
need
and units.
absolutely.
Okay.
And then comes the trial part, which how do I make you buy the brand? By giving you offer, by being present in a e-commerce environment or in retail at the like point of sale, by like sending you coupons, by using CRM and the other aspect. And once you have bought the brand, again, the fact is you have this 3-4 brands which are in your like a consideration set. How do I ensure that you buy me more often? And that is where
The repeat and the
we
retention
will
piece.
start
Yeah.
building you as a brand advocate. That is where we build the brand. So this whole journey, the brand, earlier it was just one funnel that was used by earlier marketers, but now you have to go through the whole funnel. And again, there are different mediums which you use. For example, there are in Indonesia, you've got TV, you've got YouTube, you've got Meta, you've got TikTok. And what we do as a marketer is we use different mediums for, even in e-commerce, for example, when you go for a Shopee or like Lazada, you can advertise, you can use, even they provide you like platform for awareness and consideration, and that's where you use it.
Sure. Let's complete this marketing loop, and then we'll move to your new role. So in my previous life, which was not very long ago, I was with one agency, and then I've worked with quite a few other agencies as a partner, wherein I am providing the technology, they are working with the brand and more. And I know their side of the story, the struggles, the cribbings and more. I want to hear your side of the story, because you through this illustrious career of yours, you would have worked with a lot of agency partners, right? Two things only. What makes one partnership click? That is number one. Second is, what is that you as a marketer would like to see as a change in the overall agency environment?
So agencies plays a very important role. In my marketing career, some of my best friends are people from agencies. And the reason is they are very close to the brand. I always say that it's the agency which, both the brand manager as well as the agency, which keeps the essence of brand alive. They are the owners of what I call as a brand equity. And therefore, it's very critical for an agency to understand what the brand stands for. And more importantly, what does the brand not stand for? Because the most important part because every brand has a limitation. I'll give you an example of my own personal life. When I used to handle Sensodyne, which was a brand which was a dentist recommended brand. It was the whole brand, and I worked on that brand for a long time.
Sorry, I've always been curious on this one as well. Dentist recommended brand, was it a marketing thingy, or how did this come?
It was a marketing thing.
It was a marketing thing.
Yeah. So if you look at India, for example, and I worked on it in fact, India was one of the first market where we had this dentist recommended, commercial.
And since then we have like a lot of people in the white coat
and
actors all. And recommending. Okay.
Yeah. But if you look at our, commercial, what we did was like this, like the way I'm talking to you is completely unscripted. On Sensodyne, when I started this journey, where we really have to build, because in India we had competitors which were there for a very long time.
Correct.
And when I launched Sensodyne, 9 out of 10 people said it will fail. 9 out of 10 people, because that's the level at which innovations fail in a country. The key challenge that we had at that point of time was, and I use that as an example when I teach in like colleges, was how do I make the message? How do I break the clutter? And how do I make my message of sensitivity reach the consumer? And that is where understanding of the consumer behavior starts to play a very important
Sure.
role. For example, if you look at sensitivity, for example, when we did a research in India, we realized that people were almost oblivious of the fact that the short, sharp pain that they have when they eat something hot or cold is because of a problem in teeth. They thought that like the way you start aging and your hair starts to like become white, the short, sharp pain is a part of the growing up process. Now, when you have a problem in the teeth, so therefore our first task that we realized was to educate consumer that the short, sharp pain that you have when you have something hot or cold is called sensitivity. And that was the core task of the brand, rather than going and saying that I am the best sensitive toothpaste in the world, or I do this or do that. As a marketer, you have to first define what is your task. And here the task was literally to build the category which almost did not exist in India. Although there were some 60, 70 brands which was already there in the market.
Sure.
But nobody had educated consumer about this market. Now, who is the best person to educate consumer? If you take a step back and think. So the first thing was about message, which was about the fact that you have to go and educate consumer about sensitivity and not say that I am the best or XYZ is the best or I'm 2x time better or 5x time better. So you first define what is going to be the message. Then you come about messenger. Who's going to be who's going to be the best guy who is going to educate consumer about sensitivity? As far as hair is concerned, it's the hair specialist. It's the hair specialist. In our case, it was to be the dentist. Because normally it's a dentist who is expert who will tell you that that the short, sharp pain is called sensitivity. But we had a very unique problem. The unique problem was normally people don't want to go to the dentist.
In India back then, at least, yes, that was the case.
In India, and even now, for example, only 4% of Indian consumers goes to the dentist. Forget people. Even in my case, where I have been handling oral care for a long time,
inside your mouth.
Because you feel that when you go to the dentist with one problem, he or she, and rightly so, will five, because our overall oral hygiene habits were not so great. And therefore, while dentist is the best person to give you the right to, tell you about sensitivity. But people don't visit the dentist, and therefore, how do I communicate? How do I use the dentist to communicate to our consumer? And that is when we said, why don't we get a real dentist to come to your drawing room when you are watching a television or you are watching a mobile and explain to you about sensitivity. So a real dentist became our messenger. By the way, it was a big differentiator.
I'm sure.
Because most brands in India at that point of time were using an actor, and I will not name the brand, but most brands were using an actor or an actress to communicate, and basic nuances were not followed. For example, a dentist will never will pick up a toothpaste and say, I recommend XYZ. So we used a real dentist in our advertisement, and we brought the real dentist into your drawing room, which was about having the right messenger. And then in terms of the medium, if you look at the Sensodyne journey in India, and something that I'm really proud of, we used a lot of medium to communicate our brand. We were actually one of the first marketer to start communicating on a news channel in India, because a news channel and it was on during those times, a news channels brings a certain degree of knowledge or authenticity to the consumer. If you remember India of say 2011, 2012, 2013, we used to always advertise. We used to advertise on a newspaper because the role of a newspaper is to disseminate information.
Correct.
Here, if my task was to disseminate information about sensitivity through a dentist, we use newspaper
channels
or authentic channels, because what we do is different mediums also have got different brand archetypes. For example, and we use brand archetypes a lot in our marketing knowledge. Like, for example, a newspaper is like a sage. The job of a newspaper is to give you information, like a sage. Newspaper doesn't tell you that you have to act like this. Your mobile is a lover. The first thing that you do when you get up in the morning is to look at your mobile. So a mobile has got a lover archetype, and therefore therefore that's why I said that you have to use if you are very clear about your message, if you're clear about your messenger, you have to use the right medium to communicate your message. Because different mediums also have different archetypes. For example, the role of a television is to entertain you, right? It has got a very common man archetype. And therefore, as a marketer, and these are the nuances that you have to use of how do you use the right message, as I said in this case, how do you use the right messenger, and how do you communicate that message through the right medium. By the way, I mean, on Sensodyne, we were so, it's still a past, and I think they still follow the same principle, but we never used to have a script with the dentist.
Okay.
All our advertisement used to be unscripted, because we really wanted to bring the
Authenticity.
authentic recommendation of a dentist. And consumers, by the way, are intelligent.
Yeah.
Consumers were able to clearly differentiate what
If
is
it's an actor or
authentic-
not an
If
actor.
it is an actor or not an
Correct.
actor,
Correct.
or is it an authentic recommendation or not?
Yeah.
In fact, so much so that we never used any person who was not a authentic recommender of our brand on Sensodyne. And therefore, when you use this, sorry,
Please.
I'm harping on this medium, messenger, as well as message. But if you really follow this in a purist way,
3M
magic
philosophy.
the 3M philosophy. You have to marry the three, by the way,
Yeah.
which is the fourth M. I mean, but marrying is the chemistry, is the whole chemistry. If you follow this 3M philosophy, in my life, I have seen magic happens.
Nice. Let's complete the cycle. By the way, this is a masterclass on marketing now, but let's complete the cycle on the agencies part, right? So you said how important is to have that right partner.
Absolutely.
And more. In today's environment, look, the way the agencies functions they have changed over the last 20-25 years. What do you see today which you would say is an area of improvement of sorts, according to you?
The most important thing is that agency needs to have a long-term relationship with a client.
Okay.
Because it's not possible to understand a brand in a 3 month or a 6 months. So both agency as well as the client needs to be in a married relationship, or in a committed is the right word. I mean, married is probably not the right word to use. Needs to be in a committed relationship where the client first has to invest in the agencies to ensure that an agency understands the brand, understands the limitation of the brand. And similarly, agency is also not looking at a one-off job, but looking at a long-term partnership of understanding the brand and doing something which will help change the narrative. The most important question that I ask an agency is, if this is my brand, this is the problem that I'm trying to solve, what is the narrative that you're going to bring to our consumer? And if you look at my journey, for example, on Dettol, when I used to work, it's the narrative, because a brand has to tell a story. We are all a storyteller. We have to tell a story. It's the narrative that defines the brand character. And a brand has to be, and an agency as well as the client, both sides has to be absolutely clear on what they want. Majority of times, and we all have learned. I mean, I was a brand manager, and we all have developed over a period of time. And as one of my boss used to say, that you cannot become a master marketer on day one. It's like say for example, Kohli. Kohli is the best batsman in the world. He's the best batsman in the world because he has gone and practiced cricket. He is probably the first guy who will reach the cricket field and who has practiced his cricketing. He is cricket. Or for that matter, like Ronaldo, he is one of the best soccer players in the world because he practices the most. Even in our case, both the agency as well as the client has to have a deeper understanding of the brand. And that is where as senior marketers, as senior people who have been in this field, and I also teach in some of the management colleges where we talk about the brand archetype, we talk about the message, and there are much deeper conversations that you can have on everyone. How do you develop a deep understanding of first the problem? You have to first define what is the problem that, and both agency as well as the client needs to have that understanding of the problem.
Sure.
And then they have to get into defining the solution. And that is where things like a good brief comes in, right? Because and briefs should normally be written both by the client as well as the agencies together. The first tab on the brief should be done by the client side, because as a brand manager, I should be very clear. Like when I'm giving a brief, I should be very clear 70-80% on what I want, but I should give enough leeway to my agency to bring that spark of brilliance, so that when agency and client starts understanding the business and when both of them are rooted, magic happens.
Sure. Well, I mean, I almost giggled internally listening to brief. I've had so much fun speaking to my friends at agencies and reading some really weird briefs at times, which are like very half-baked.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, my competition doing this. What do I need to do against it?
Yeah.
I mean, that can't be a brief.
Yeah.
Right.
So as a senior person, as a senior marketer, and I have been trained by some of the best people in the industry, right?
Sure.
It's like it's a legacy that we all are carrying. We all have been trained by some of the toughest people in the marketing, some of the best people in marketing, and what we have learned from them is the amount of time that you need to spend on writing a good brief. If you don't write a good brief, or if you don't have a clarity as a brand manager or as a category manager or as a marketing head, if you don't have clarity on what you want, I mean, agency is not handling your business day to day, right?
Correct.
You first need to have that clarity on what is the problem that you're solving, and therefore what is that you're expecting from the brand. And therefore, my sincere advice, if there's one advice that I give to my team or to the larger team when I talk to the marketing fraternity, is spend 70% of your time defining the problem.
Wow.
Spend 70% of your time defining your brief. We are so much in hurry to find a solution that we just try to, somehow fish out just give the brief to the agency, and then we think that, it's their problem. But unless you spend time going through your strategy, going through what the problem is, trying to look at different data points, go and talk to the consumers, and not leave talking to consumers to the third party, then only you will start understanding. Like the way I spoke about Sensodyne.
Yeah.
Unless we would have gone and spoken to the consumers, unless we would have,
You'd not have had that insight.
unless we would have not got the fear of a person of visiting a dentist, we would not have got a dentist in the drawing room, or expert in the drawing room, depending on how it is in different
All
countries.
that work gave you these deep insights which led to the campaign.
Absolutely. You have to spend time with the consumer. As a marketer, I see a lot of marketers now spend a lot of time on their laptop, and we have to go out in the market, talk to the mothers, talk to our consumer, observe what they're doing, try to understand deep, because most of the time, for example, you and I are talking, right? The initial 10 minutes when I'm talking to you, I'll be saying the right things to you. What is the right things to be said? Only when you start engaging with a mother at a deeper level, you start understanding her deep concerns, anxieties, or aspirations.
True.
Marketing is about understanding a mom's or a consumer's concerns, anxieties, or fears, as well as aspirations. And nobody says that. I mean, if you are talking in a very transactional way, nobody will give you. You have to build a relationship with the consumer to understand that.
Sure. No, this was fabulous. Let's come to the new role which you are in. Not so new now, but yeah. I might be wrong, but please correct me over here. Generally, you don't see this transition happening, right? Where you have someone who spent a lot of time in the marketing function. irrespective of the levels, right, moves into the core business P&L and pure play growth role. Does this happen generally in FMCG?
It happens.
It does.
It happens.
Okay.
See, normally the way we are trained.
I haven't seen this in the technology part. That's where I come from. Hence, I was like,
the way we have been trained in our life is, as I said, I've done both sales and marketing.
correct.
I also have done different facets of sales and different facets of marketing, and we get trained throughout our life for this ultimate for these roles, which are the like business role. Even when you are a marketing, even when I was a marketing director, for example, I would call myself more of a business person. So while I love doing marketing, which I even do right now, because at the end of the day, we exist to serve the consumer. And even now in my business role, apart from what I do, we need to have a deep understanding of what our consumer needs. Although I do less now because we have a marketing team which does that, but we are trained to do that, and therefore you will see many good marketers or most good salespeople moving into agile management.
This happens generally in the FMCG retail space. Okay. And how life changes after that? Like how different your life has been in the last 1 year?
So from being a marketing director where you think more about consumer, and you're leading a small team. I mean, normally your team is around 20-25 people. Now you're leading a big team.
How big?
Say around 150 odd people team. And the most important job that you do apart from managing the business is managing people. Managing people's aspiration. And that's where I say that we lead our business through 4 P's.
Okay.
So that's the new one.
Sure.
First is about purpose, which is about ensuring that your brand gives the right message to the consumer, or your brand exists to serve a purpose, a role in the society. For example, our role, we are the champions of cognition, we are the champions of brain in Indonesia, and our role is to ensure that the overall society gets uplifted as far as, the next generation is much better than our generation. So we call ourselves the stimulus of change to nourish the best start of life in a consumer's life. Second part is process, because when you are leading such a big team, it's very, very important that you have a strong process so that people exactly know what they are doing. The third and the most important aspect is people. I mean, apart from the brand, the most important aspect is people, because it's critical that the people that you're leading, they are motivated. They feel equally enthusiastic to come to office on a Monday morning, and they feel equally energized on a Thursday evening or a Friday evening. And it's not like that on Monday morning they feel, oh my God, I have to go to the office. And that's the role. That's the role. I call my role as the Chief Improvement Officer, the Chief People Officer, whose job is to ensure that people are motivated. Because unless people are motivated, unless they are passionate, unless they have the belief, the 4th P, which is performance or outperformance as we call it, will not happen. So for outperformance or performance to happen, which is the 4th P, you need to have the right purpose, the right process, and the right people agenda to ensure that outperformance.
So performance is the output part.
Performance is the output part. The input part is purpose, process, and people.
Sure. So, I mean, if you talk about this new role per se, it also involves managing the complete P&L for this business.
It does.
Have you done this as a function in the past?
See, as a marketer, as a brand manager,
I'm trying to. I'm just
as a brand manager, you own the brand P&L. And so, as I said, we all have been trained from a very young age when you are a brand manager. In fact, since I started my life in a local company in India, not so local, I worked with Dabur, where you literally own every line of the P&L, right from the cost of goods and how one element impacts the cost of goods. I think some of my initial trainings really helped in my life, and as we have grown, you look at different P&Ls and you develop a good knack.
Sure.
But of course, when you look at now the overall Indonesia P&L, you have to look at the different pulls and pushes to ensure that that while you drive the top line, you also ensure that your business is driven at a decent profitability and your people are earning good money to ensure that everybody is on the right place.
Absolutely. You are an avid book reader. We keep sharing notes at times. Uh, Give me three recommendations for aspiring marketeers or the marketeers, young marketeers who are listening to us. Any book recommendations which you want to make?
So two very different books. One is see David Acker. Acker was considered as the god of marketing because he's the one who gave this whole philosophy on differentiation. And I think we all have grown with him. So it's very important to understand Acker. But now there's a new philosophy which has come, which is about how brand grows.
Okay.
So that's one almost like a must-read book for everyone. And then the third one,
The book's name is How Brands Grow.
how brands grow.
Okay.
And then the third one, it's not on marketing, but it's on how you lead. It's by Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek is one of the best guy as far as like leadership is concerned.
True, absolutely.
And you can read his books. And I've read, I think, almost all his books. And every time you read him, it brings a element of humility and a element of new perspective into the whole business.
Absolutely, 100% agree with Simon Sinek piece. If you were starting today, we are sitting in August, pretty much the time when you're like just out of college, just out of your MBA. If you're starting today in today's environment, what would you do different? I mean, you look at your, it's more of a retrospective question, right? If you look at your journey, would you do something differently?
So, most of us, when we start our journey, we are very conscious about what will happen next. We are a bit anxious about fast promotions, fast life, getting into a position, and some of us do not focus on fundamentals. Having worked for the last 20 plus years, there is absolutely no alternative to working on fundamentals. If I have to look back, probably I loved my journey. I just loved different part of my journey. And it's not been an easy journey because it's not been a straight line, and life will never be straight.
It's never a straight line.
It's never be a straight line.
It's always a spiral of sorts.
It's always a spiral, and you have to trust. You have to trust. Like, for example, when I got this role of Singapore, I never were looking forward to moving to a Singapore. In fact, I had got few roles when I was in GSK to move to foreign locations. But at that point of time, I was so absorbed in my work on Sensodyne that I said no, and that was the right thing to do. You have to trust the good work that your parents and you have done, and good things will happen to you. But the most important thing that I will do more, I think I would be reading much more than what I did.
Much more than what you do?
Much more than what I did. Because at the end of the day,
I need to put that Excel sheet on the screen. And then, I mean, how many books did you read last year?
Last year I did around 50.
50.
But I started a bit late. I used to read a lot. I used to read a lot when I was a student. Once you start working, I did not read that much. And that's what I said. I should have, you have to read a lot because, at the end of the day, life is about gaining experience. So it's not just about reading, it is also about gaining experience. So my suggestion to people who are listening to this podcast would be focus on getting experience, getting diverse experience. Focus on driving excellence in your everyday life. I mean, that is where sometimes when you look at, there are people who may get lucky without focusing on excellence.
Very rare.
But coming from where I have come from, what has worked for me is focusing on excellence, doing what I can do best today, and leaving what will happen 3 years, months down the line.
You can't control the outcome.
No, but people are anxious. We all are anxious. I mean, when we are in the MBA college, we want the best. We are all anxious because everybody wants to be the CEO at some point of time when you start from a college. Trust the system, trust your fate, trust the good work that you're doing, focus on fundamentals, and I think good things will happen.
I think that's a fabulous advice. And on that note, thank you so much for doing this, Rahul.
Thank you very much.
It was an absolute pleasure.
Same here. Thank you very much for having me here.